We appreciate it because it helps in many ways, gets the word out. There's all kinds of little things that people who have been here for 5 years know about that new people don't. So this is our way to recognize them. And yeah, you got anything about that, Todd?
No, I don't think
All
so. We're here.
right, let's put
There's a
this
little bit of
on proper
comments
voice,
that we've got a
and
slight
yeah,
delay happening, and I don't
let's
know if
watch
it's
this.
between audio sync. I don't know if there's anything we can do about it. So we're all
Ta,
working
it's
from
magic.
home
It's the
still,
cat magic,
so
man.
it could just be weird internet stuff. So apologies for that.
Ah,
Hopefully, if we can figure something out, we'll fix it. But if not, then I guess we'll just all have to suffer through.
Okay. Well, voting for the Creator Awards goes from Jan 11th to Jan 24th, and we'll announce this in our February Ace Q&A. Moving on to the next program we have going, Decapathon 4 is ending today. Yes, they're still called Decapathons. It is still amazing, and it's kind of funny how the Decapathons came around. I can't even remember what they were originally called, but Todd's like, this is called Decapathon, and it has stuck. And now we have done 4 of them.
We
Which
will often name things just to see the look on Debbie Sue's face when she hears that we're actually going to call it that publicly. This is definitely one of those examples.
yeah, Todd
I
kind
love
of
those
just went off
guys.
on this one, and it was like, okay, I guess we're calling it Decapathon then. All right. So Decathlon 4 ends tonight. We've got some art for that as well. I saw that the icons just came across my desk, so I know that the item will get made shortly and put into the game for 6.4 more than likely. Sun Faction
Hey,
appears to be
Punisher, hi.
leading the Faction of Victory, but there's still some time left.
Yeah,
You get the belt
Decapathon,
item.
blah
It looks really
blah.
cool. I like to wear them when we do playtests because I think our attachment system is pretty cool, and it's a great way to customize your character. So there you go. Okay. Let's see. What do we got going on live and test right now? Don't we have a campaign ending? Or did
We
it
do.
just end?
Yep.
Yep. The
Man, look,
Yuletide
Gordon has
Drinks
a
campaign.
real size confessor in his room. This is
Who
fucking
made up
dope.
that name? Was that
I
WC?
don't know. Probably.
Yuletide? It ends
And
today,
Chated Coleman has a
January 5th at
Yoda, a
11
little
p.m.
Yoda.
Central Daylight Time. The imports of 50, the exports of 75. And then on test server, we've got we still have test server live, and it's just got some general fixes that we've been doing in preparation to push live in a hotfix. But I'm certain fairly soon we'll be shutting down test as we start to migrate over 6400 stuff, which we can start talking about.
Yep. So yeah, 6400
Ooh,
is the next
six four
one
hundred.
coming down the
Nice.
pipe. So yeah, it's time to
So what's
clean off
new?
test servers so that we can get that up there. I don't know when it's going to hit, but it is not too far away now. So by the time we talk to you guys again next time in February, we'll have a host of new things to talk about because you will have seen a lot of the stuff we're going to talk about today.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, one thing about campaign rewards. So we did right before the break, right when most of our team was out of the office. We had our first campaign rewards come out. It was a bit bumpy, which was kind of hard because there was nobody around to actually deal with issues. But I want to thank everybody for helping us
Ooh,
for
yeah.
helping us figure out where those issues were. By now, customer service should have reached out. If you didn't get a reward and you think you should have, let us know. I think we should be on the other side of that. Gordon, is that accurate at this
Yep,
point?
I think
Okay.
so.
Yeah, I'm also very curious about the
So thanks
announcements.
everybody for doing that. One thing I told you incorrectly that I want to correct from the previous one is I thought
Mm-hmm.
that the behavior of the system was that if you got the top reward in power, you would then also get the top 10% and the top 20% and the top 50% power rewards as well. And that's for every category. I thought that you got all of them. That's
Ooh.
not accurate. Technically, you do get those rewards, but you don't have to claim them separately. The way they were designed, the top bundle included all of the things that were in those other bundles as well. You didn't have to click the top bundle, then click each additional bundle. So while I was correct in what you were going to get. The way that they were set up for you to redeem them was incorrect, so I did want to clarify that. We have another round of rewards
nice.
that are hitting with this campaign,
That
so
explains
I
a
am
lot.
sure there will be
Yeah.
another round of bugs and issues, because every time we do this, we find a little bit more. That's what beta is all about. So please, again, if you find issues or things are off or something's just unclear, which was actually a big chunk of the problem last time, was the UI just wasn't quite clear, and we've resolved that, we hope. Please just let us know. That's what beta's for, and that's why you guys are testing. So so thanks for helping us get all these issues resolved. I'm excited to see where this system goes. Now that we've started to get through the bugs, we can turn our attention back to the balance and say, okay, now what do we really want to give out? How do we want to adjust these rewards, to increase them or decrease them or balance them out?
And
So
what's great is I worked with Raymond on coming up with some new items for the campaign rewards, just unique stuff that you can only get from the campaign rewards, because it's always cool to get stuff that way. So I believe it was the sparkling and the shiny additives to tools to make you have a really critty, weak spot focused type of tool or a high damage tool. I'll talk about some specifics that later, but the idea is we're going to try and keep adding in new unique things that you can get through campaign rewards, because it's a great way to reward you guys and you feel cool about getting it. And it's also a spot where we can put special things that aren't just as mundane as like resource or gems or whatever. So there you go.
yeah,
We've got some more exciting things coming.
a big chunk of the confusion, just since I don't think we talked about it last time, we might as well bring it up now, is that there are actually rewards that are guild rewards and rewards that are individual participant rewards, and those were all kind of mixed together, and it was hard to tell. We've made that much more clear now. At the top of a reward bundle card, it says this is a guild reward or this is a participant reward. Guild bundles
Very
are
good.
given
Very
one
good.
to the guild. Participant rewards are given to everyone who was in that guild. So now when you're going through, that should hopefully be a lot more clear. But again, if you guys have things that
Rewards
you're
are
like, hey,
nice.
this doesn't
Gems,
make any
vendors,
sense in the
gold,
UI, please
disciplines.
let us know so we can hopefully
good
cut
stuff.
those issues off early.
And extra exports.
So
Yeah, and actually, if you have a great idea
So
for
the
something
campaign
burning
rewards.
that you just think absolutely should be a campaign reward, give us some
Amongst
feedback on the
other stuff.
forums
yeah,
or
for sure.
or on one of the Discord channels, and we'll definitely look at putting it in, because we're always open to ideas and feedback on that stuff.
Yeah, you can tell with our approach, right? We use so you'll have a general reward that is, here's a reward for being in the top 50% of wealth, for example. That's not just a reward, it's a bundle. Like, we did that on purpose because different players value different things differently, right? Some people are going to say, oh, that's something for my EK that I can't get otherwise. That's really cool. Other people are going to say, I don't care about that at all. That doesn't help me. I want something that helps me on my personal character journey. So we tried to bundle them together, but I'm sure in doing that, we might have had some player types that we missed. So like Blair said, definitely give us reward feedback. Ultimately, the point of the reward system is to drive people to want to win those rewards and to keep people playing, even if they don't think they're necessarily going to come in number one in some category. So the
Baby
the
Yoda is
better we can
definitely
make those
stealing the
rewards,
show.
the better impact it'll have on getting players into the game, which makes
Who
the game
cares
more
about
fun.
J-Todd, right? If you have Baby
Okay.
Yoda and like...
There you go. I think we're ready to move into what we've been working on for 6.4. Start revealing that stuff. Todd.
Oh yeah!
All right. So one
Tell
of
us.
the things which is which I'm personally super excited about because it's just going to up our general level of polish is the new lobby. The lobby has been something that we've been meaning to get to for the longest period of time. In fact, I think we started this effort well over a year ago, right? And just mapping out how the new lobby flow should look and
Oh
putting a
yeah.
polish pass.
Lobby
As a
was
result,
confusing
the
to
old
some
lobby
players.
has kind of gotten dusty and stale because we haven't been making updates to it. So a lot of times I know that I hear feedback from people saying, why this bug has been in the lobby forever. Why haven't you fixed it? Well, the answer is because
Show
we had a whole new
me.
lobby coming online.
Come on,
So
show me.
there was no reason to go and spend a bunch of time on fixing the kitchen cabinets in the house that we knew we were going to tear down because we were going to build a new house there anyway. So I think we actually have some screenshots of that we can show. I don't know if they're up yet or not. 'cause
Sweet,
can't
I like
see
it.
the stream. But if they are not, let's go ahead and get them up.
Click.
But this basically shows how the lobby looks once you come in. It's got a character carousel at the bottom, so you can actually create new
Yeah.
characters there or select your
Sweet.
characters. If your character is already in a locked world, there's a quick link to be able to jump immediately to that world and get playing. If there's not, then there's a world selection. And this whole thing is 3D and animated, which is really cool, by the way. One of the things that we thought
Yes.
was an important design point in the
Nice.
lobby redo was highlighting something that is pretty unique to Crowfall. I mean, there are a few other games that do it, but most MMOs don't, which is that characters are not locked to a particular server.
Yeah.
That makes Crowfall feel more like a universe because your characters can move freely from world to world to world, and those worlds being different, like the maps being different and the rules being
Oh
different.
yeah,
That's
great job.
really, it's
Great
an
job.
interesting and very unique point for us, but it's one that's kind of hard to explain to people because it's so different, right? That's why we have to reach all the way to games like EVE Online
Yes.
to try and explain how this thing works. So part of our thinking in redoing the lobby was how do we put that idea that
Inbox
this is one
up here.
giant interconnected universe front and center. And so that's the way we did it. And initially we had these world bands set up to be like infected and dregs, and then what we determined later was a couple things. One is that wasn't extensible
cool.
as
That's
we add
really
more
cool.
world types. So we went back and thought about it and said, how do we come up with better categories for grouping these? And then number two, the idea of the dregs or the infected doesn't mean anything to a new player coming into our game, right? To those of you who are probably on this chat, you know intimately that if we say the infected, you immediately go, oh, I know what that is. That's the 3-faction world, and the rule set works like this, and the loot rules are like this. To a new player off the street, that doesn't mean anything. So we thought this would be better for navigation and for long-term growth if we organized it by what is the grouping or team structure that we use. So you can see those tabs. At least I'm assuming that you can see those tabs. Again, I can't see the screen, but you can see those tabs have it separated out as, okay, this is the area that you're going to go for player kingdoms. Here's the starting worlds for God's Reach. Here are the faction-based worlds, and then here are the guild versus guild worlds, and then we
guild.
would have all
Nice.
of those under there. So I think that the overall level of polish is going to be a significant upgrade from what you guys have seen. I think it's going to make the game demo so much better to new players that are coming in. And I really do love that it does a great job now of actually selling the idea of the Crowfall universe as opposed to it just being a traditional MMO. So there you go. There's all my thoughts on the lobby for you real quick.
Real quick, but yeah, I think it looks great. It actually animates. You guys can't see that in the pictures. It looks really good in game. It feels like a high quality product. So we're happy to be finally getting to that stage of polish, right? We needed something functional and to finally settle on all the bits and pieces that we were going to put in before we basically put the final thing together.
Yeah,
So,
one other thing that we haven't gotten to yet, but do want to make a pass over is character creation. So that's the last piece that'll flow into
cool.
this as well, is
That's
the
nice.
character creation piece will come. Right now it's the same one you have, but the same one you have right now doesn't give you a lot of information about the races and the classes. So we're going to be taking another swing
Yeah, I
at
can
that. but
mention that in a sentence in
follow-on
the
to
summary.
this that's not included in this first version. So you guys will get to play with this when it comes out here in 6.400. I
Guys,
think you're
I'm
all
excited.
I know you're all going to say, yeah, it's a significant improvement because the old one was kind of,
it did what it needed to do, right?
Yeah.
So
well, it also had to be. The old one was adapted as the design changed, right?
Right.
As things moved around, we just kind of shoehorn this thing in over here and stuff like that. Whereas the new one, we were able to look at the design and say, okay, here's the design. How do we actually make this thing? Make sense to new players that are coming in, make it easy for me to get where I want to go, and to add that level of shine and polish to even tie it into the narrative, which is really cool.
Yeah, it starts to look like the Homer as you start to bolt pieces onto the car. You're like,
yeah, the old one for sure.
Right, and then you're like, okay, now we're finally done. Now we know what we need. Let's build the final polish one.
Okay,
and I know that
chop.
I'm
Next
not looking
topic.
at chat either, but I'm sure there's a few people that are like, I don't really care. It's just a
What's
lobby.
next?
But it actually does make a
Come on.
difference. It makes a difference in how you feel about the game. And having kind of sore sticking points that needle you every time you go back to the lobby can be draining in a way you don't really
But
expect.
I'm excited.
So I think
I know I shouldn't push
a little bit of
them.
new car smell
Asuka, you're
back to
right.
the experience, which will be nice.
Yeah, I think that's a great analogy for a lot of what we've been doing. First, at least from a system standpoint,
I'm gonna be patient.
In the last couple updates where we redid the talents and the disciplines, we did it with the tech that we had, and then now we're continuing to do that. The lobby gets its
Mazuka,
update,
yeah.
and that's going to segue into Ray talking about what we're doing with attributes next.
Oh yeah,
Yep.
you're right.
Yeah, actually,
It's
so
my
let me
eyes,
set
man.
a
I'm
little
old.
bit of a stage for that, just so you guys know, is when Blair and I look at, and Ray, when we look at systems, like we're looking initially at just raw functionality. Like, can the thing even work? Can it do what it's supposed to do?
No
To
pun
me, the
intended,
balance
actually.
part is next. Like, okay, now that we know it's working,
Makuza.
let's go back and balance it. It's very
why
hard to be
Mazuka?
balancing things when you're missing major pieces. It's like, hey, I'm just missing this whole system that's supposed to serve
Freudscher
this purpose.
Versprecher.
So you can constantly be going back and rebalancing as you go, or you can kind of wait on a lot of that stuff. And so we opted to wait on a lot of it. You have already seen one effort, which was pretty
It is.
significant, which was the talents and the talent trees and the domains.
I do that
I
so
think
often.
that was
I do
overall
that so
very well
often, man.
received. This is another one, which is attributes. So let me start with the problem that we were trying to solve, which is, hey, I'm
Attributes?
playing your game and I chose knight, and I'm given these attribute points to spend on my strength or my dexterity or my con or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't feel like I can make a guy feel different. At my knight versus Ray's knight, I chose to put all my points into strength, and he chose to spread his points between dex and con. And it doesn't feel like we made two different characters, which makes it feel like it's a non-choice. So that is not what we want. We want it to feel impactful and feel like a real choice and a hard choice. So kind of the same thing we did with the talent trees, now we're doing with attributes. And attributes was actually a really important one because it touches everything else. So frankly, we should have gone and done attributes first before we even did talent trees, because now we are having to do a little bit of rework on the talent tree stuff as a result. But it was important to get to,
Finally.
because we're going to touch all the
Also
systems
important.
like this. So we're just going to going system by system now,
Yeah,
trying to get
Makuza.
it, say what's working about the system,
Attributes
what's
are kind
not
of,
working as
there goes a
designed,
little
and
more
how do we
portion
move
on
it
this.
from the spot it is to where it needs to be.
Didn't felt
So
impactful.
anyway, so there you go. That's why we're taking a look at attributes. So now I thought Ray, it'd be nice to have him jump in, because he can give you guys specifics on, like, with that as the marching orders, how are we attacking this problem.
Oh, Ray!
Yeah, so,
I love this guy.
I mean, as you said, that was our main goal with attributes, right? Is to have them have an impact. So right now, you could put a single point or even 5 or 10 points into something, and it didn't have this, feel like didn't have a very large impact on what you were doing. So that was
Ray on the screen yet, by the way. There we go. Okay.
Oh, am I on now? All right.
Yeah, you're on now.
Yeah, I can't see the screen either. So that was our goal, right? And so what we did is we backed way up and sort of looked where things were. And, as Todd pointed out, we want to make sure that players had, the ability to sort of customize their individual character. Now, we know that there are some important things based on characters, right? So as an example, assassin, it likes dexterity. So we know players are going to want dexterity. What we didn't change combat. So combat is the way it is. Combat's still going to be the way it is. That's not what we're touching. What we're dealing with is
what did you do?
Sort of the source of your statistics, right? So
I'm
you have your
not
attack
patient
power,
at
you have
all
your crit
today.
strike, you've got your crit damage, you have all these sorts of things. So we wanted to, again, attributes, the stuff that the players will, again, have access to, let that sort of guide more about how you're.
Yeah, we definitely should be able to touch
caps. As an
caps.
example, the first thing we did was we sort of looked at what statistics were driven by which attributes. So I think originally you had like all mitigations under dexterity, which is just everything, right? So what we did is we took the individual groups, like your physical mitigations, your organic, your elemental, and we spread those out. So now, 1 point of dex or 10 points of dex or whatever doesn't get you all those mitigations. It only gets you a little bit. And so if you want, like we move some to con, or we sort of moving some things around, so that now I can make choices. Like, we
I like
a
where
lot
this is
of,
going.
fessers or whatever. So, I'm going to make a guy who focuses on elemental mitigations. And so you may put some of your extra points into that. So that's sort of where we started. was to spread things out to make, different attributes have more weight than they had in the past.
So let's talk about the mitigations in particular, Ray. We have 9, right? We have 9 mitigations divided into 3 categories. Previously,
Right.
they were all on decks. Now they're spread, right?
Correct.
So can you talk about where they're spread to? I don't think you touched the details of it.
Yeah. So where they are currently is we put all the physical mitigations under Dex, we put all of the organic under Con, and we put all the elemental under Spirit. So that's where they sit currently. So you start to think, oh, well, if I'm going to play a healer, I tend to focus Spirit. That means I'm going to have more resistance to the elemental mitigations. You're like, yep, absolutely. So it's a slight buff for those Spirit players. If I
It
was
also
a Con
means
player
though, that if you
before,
wanted to make a character who was very specifically like, I want to go after characters that use this damage type, I can tank up in that particular stat and make a character that goes after that particular type of other character. So
correct.
I mean, there's a guy who says he's done if there's another
Sort
wipe.
of make the stats a little bit more balanced.
Beta, hello?
The attributes more balanced.
Dude.
So the players would be interested in different ones for different purposes.
If you want to go,
so
play something else.
Mitigations is just the first example, right? The
Holy
actual,
moly.
what we're talking about is a overhaul of all of the things.
Yeah, we tried to keep, there's a lot that's still the same. We didn't want to change the core things of a class. So like if you wanted strength before, you still want strength. If you wanted dex before, you still want dex. So we didn't mess with too many of those, but we did want to give, a few things and a few choices and spread those around. So after that, we started there. The next step was, let me back this up. So yeah, we started with the mitigations. The next step was we wanted each point to feel better, right? So before, you get fractional amounts of stuff, and it felt like you had to put a bunch of points in to make it feel like it made a difference. So we did a few things. First thing we did was we crushed down the caps. So the caps used to be like 300, 350, somewhere in there. Well, we brought those down.
They took the caps down.
What that allowed us to do is to
but it makes, from a design perspective, it makes sense.
Right? So,
yeah.
And we're doing some other shuffling. Some other things we're doing is in talent trees. We might have taken some of the bonuses that we got, spread around in the talent trees, and we put those back into attributes. So now we could turn up how much each individual point of dex or strength or whatever
decrease the
will
caps.
give you of these various things.
They basically take
So
the
now your
caps
attributes
down
have a
to
very large impact
the level where we get to
on
at the moment.
the statistics of your character.
So instead of giving
now
us
when you're making
attribute
choices,
points back
it really,
and
really matters,
stats back, they just
what you're
take
doing.
the whole cap down
Now,
and say, this is
we
where the
also,
world
we
ends
said
now.
we wanted to give players more control. So the next thing we did was we gave you a lot more points to spend. So each point
Which will
now
make
does a lot
crafting
more,
stuff more
and we're going
complex.
to give you, I think right now we're sitting at 140 points. So you get a lot more points, and they do a lot more. And
We get more
your cap
points.
comes down.
Ah.
So to max out a particular, stat, like the one that you're really focused on, you can get to it really quickly. And so you should have a lot of points left over to try and, spend them in the areas to where you want to sort of customize your guy. You want to, have more health, dump it into con. You want to be resistant
Let's talk
to
about
elements?
that one actually in particular, because I don't know that people understand the level to which we're talking about points making a difference.
Okay.
So previously, if I spent 1 point in con, how many health did I get out of it?
8.
Was it 8?
5.
I think it was 8 points.
8.
If I spend 1 point now, how many do I get out of it?
You get 20 points.
Cookie cutter idea.
So yeah, it's that's the sort of change we're looking at. Another example would be, say, let's take crit strike, for example. So before, 1 point of dex would get you,
I think they want you to
0.05
overcap
crit
because
strike. So now it's 3 times that. It's 0.15.
reductions get applied before the
it starts
cap.
to add up very quickly. And again, you get more points. So
so if you overcap, you can basically burn through resistance and still stay at the cap.
And you gave it.
They said
thank
that.
you very much. But it was the talent trees. There were these stat bundles that were just sort of, I mean, some were good, like, oh, that's a good one. This one's terrible. No one ever takes it. this one's terrible. No one ever takes it. I wish I could take that power, but it's behind this terrible stat bundle. But we didn't have the opportunity to fix it at that moment. But this is what's going to come out of that. So now we have all these attribute points. We got 140 that we're giving you when you level up, and we've got a bunch that we're going to take, and now we can fill out your talent tree. Stat bundles will now have attributes. The next thing we want to do is collapse some of these stat bundles.
Talent points for attributes.
If anybody remembers the old talent trees, that sort of stuff was spread way out, and we sort of collapsed them into like 6 of these bundles, right? Well, maybe that was too many bundles. So now we're going to reduce it to 4, and we're going to load them up with attributes plus the other statistics that were there. So now these things should be pretty juicy. And so now it's a matter of, man, I really wish I could get this because it might have, 40 decks on it. Like, wow, 40 points a decks, one click. And it's going to have other stuff too. You have con or strength or int or crit strike or health. I mean, we could put all these things in these stat bundles. So these things should be nice and juicy. And technically you could get them all 4 of the bundles, but you're going to have to be giving some stuff up to get it. So again, there's going to be some more hard
juicy
choices
bundles
about how many of these stat bundles do I want. There's a lot of attribute points here and a lot of statistics. How much, what do I want to give up for that, and so you'll have to figure out, the type of build you want to make. So I don't know, there's a lot going on.
Changing talents,
everything. So let me know
get used to it.
So we've got, again, it's trying to cover it all, right? I guess races, we also adjusted the starting values of races. So if I missed anything,
possible, Makusa, possible.
No, again, I'm trying to fly through this relatively quickly so I don't take up too much time, but I think that's the majority of what we're looking at. The back end of this, I think, will lead us into the next discussion, which is, the next question that people would ask is, hey, what did that do to vessels? And that absolute, since again, we've crushed everything, right? Crushed it down, and the same thing's going to happen to vessels. So I know Blair's got the
I'll talk about that change.
Yeah, I'll preface that one with what problem are we trying to solve again.
Well, right? I think, Todd, we can preface it with, we decided to get rid of the entire vessel system. Let's just get rid of it. Oh, wait a second.
Well, no, that's not true.
No, that's not true.
No. So there actually are some things about vessels I really like. Like, I really love the I like the fact that it ties into the crafting system. I think that's really cool. I think that it's a great kind of advanced way of creating characters that go further and further into the game and deeper into the game. I think it's great for long term. So the piece that I don't like about vessels, about the current vessel system as currently implemented in the game, is that it basically is taking 2 things. Number one is I have to dump my current character and make a new character to create the new vessel. That sucks because, there is an emotional attachment to characters. That is a thing that goes all the way back to, the original MMOs. As I created this avatar, I don't want to continue my progression, have to dump that avatar and go get another one. It works better in games like EVE, right? Because I'm dumping my ship. That doesn't it feels like ships can be dumped and a new ship can be picked up. In a fantasy game, that feels very bizarre, right? I feel a connection to my body that I don't feel to a ship. So that was problem number 1. Problem number 2 is that
Saitando's over there complaining.
Getting a new vessel, we would reset you to first level and push you back into God's Reach, which was never the intention. So effectively, to play this game to max with a single character, it was like, hey, why don't you go replay the tutorial 5 times? That's really crappy. So a big chunk of what I've been doing over the course of the last couple months is I've been taking a look at the overall flow of players through the game. Like, where do people go at various points in the game, and where do we want them to be? So if we have people who are basically, I've already maxed a character and I'm on my blue vessel and they're playing in God's Reach, that's not where we want them to be, right? That actually means that player who should be in Dregs is back playing in God's Reach, and we're basically removing them as content for other players in dregs, and not for good reason. They're not having a blast in God's Reach. They're looking at it as a chore. So that was one piece, was how do we move them there? This touches on other areas too, like why are people farming in infected when they need to be farming in dregs? That was part of the overall problem we was trying to solve, but vessels in particular, the issue was that we were restarting people and then forcing them back through God's Reach. So Blair and I took a look at that problem and said, okay, how do we keep the pieces that we like about vessels in terms of the harvesting, the crafting, the advancement for kind of end game level characters, but do it in a way that does not require them to start over with a new character in God's Reach and replay the tutorial.
Yeah, that was, I think.
So it's either upgrading a character or.
And shockingly enough, in Design Land, this doesn't happen often. Is when somebody pitches an idea, usually there's got to be some dissent in there. It's kind of, it's never like the silver bullet. But Todd pitched this the solution. I'm like, holy shit, he's right. This solves
interesting.
all of the problems that we have with this. Let's buy this feature right now. So Mark Borland.
Well, the other thing about it was that it was cheap. Like we were able to come up with a way to do it that really required I think it was like a day and a half of engineering effort. It was. So anyway, I let's just explain. So
the masters of foreplay.
Vessel transformations. Because as opposed to starting a new character with vessels, you're now taking a vessel and applying it to your existing character.
So we've actually increased the level cap from 30 to 35
now,
which is a pretty significant change. And you now start with a poor quality vessel in Character Create, and your first vessel is a common quality vessel. So if Emily could put the slide up there, the way we gate the acquisition of the next, or the using of the next vessel, is you need to be the required level that the previous vessel granted you. So when you hit level 30, which is the current level cap, you can now right-click in your inventory the common quality vessel, and that will increase your level cap by 1. So now you can go to level 31. Your XP bar shows back up, and you get all of the attributes and all of the stats on that vessel, and you're now a common quality vessel.
This is cool.
So when you hit level 32, for example,
we get respecs,
30 to 31, 31 to 32. So you see each vessel gives you +1 more potential. You fill that XP bar up, you hit the next level, and you can use the next vessel quality, which is great because you get to keep the same character. There is no going through and re-leveling in God's Reach. It's all about staying on that character and making that character better. And at each point, you can swizzle the attributes and the stats how you want to. Whatever customization you want on your particular vessel, you can work it in there.
You will have to do it step by step.
Because we get to use all this content that we built. In the past,
but that's good. That's good.
Entire qualities of vessel. It didn't make any sense. Excuse me. So I think it works great. I spent most of the holiday break working on the diminishing returns charts and how you get XP and all of that other stuff. So the back end of this system works. There's a couple more UI pieces we need on the vessels, but you can see from the slides basically the entirety of the system.
So, one question somebody
this is cool.
Made was
this is a great change.
Your stats are
yes.
terrible, Blair. You did horrible rolling here. Actually, they're not. We had to rebalance all the attributes because we just made attributes somewhere between 4 and 5 times more impactful than they were previously. So, so part of that process was also doing a rebalance on attributes. So your number scales are a little off, right? The caps are different now. The caps are now 200, not 350 as an ultimate max cap, which means that vessel numbers had to come down. I think that even right now, the vessel impacts may be equal or a little bit more than they were before, and they were already probably too much. So we may have to continue to tweak on those some. But the nice thing about this too, so it solves the problem. Going back to the problems that I said,
vessel numbers
I didn't like
down.
the idea that I had to change to a new character, so that's good. I didn't like having to go through God's Reach and re-level up on these low-level mobs, so that's good. And now our in-game characters who are actually doing this character progression
Please don't
are
do a
doing it in
vessel
the
wipe.
dregs where we want them to be. They're not skipping out and going back to God's Reach. So I think it solves all those problems. I think it's just a much, much stronger system. So
Yeah, there shouldn't be. I hit level 31. Now I'm going to go back to God's Reach or Infected. That's not going to be a thing. You won't even find content that gives you experience back in those areas. You're going to have to go
Amazing.
get
Yes.
sacrifice items from the dregs, and you're going to have to kill the NPCs level that are equal or higher level to you in the dregs. They're just not going to be found in GR and the Infected. So we're basically pushing these levels work slightly different from the previous levels, and we're pushing more people out towards the dregs. Is basically what this is. Okay.
cool.
Yeah. Absolutely, like upgrading a vessel.
Question that just came up is, so are they going to adjust GR and Infected? Yes. I mean, that's what I was talking about with the flow is, yes, we have to go through, and now that we have everybody on more set level bands, that also helps because it means I can say, hey, a person who's at this point on a green vessel, I know where they are in the game. They're going to be on drugs because there's no reason for them to go back to God's Reach. So that actually means we can go through now and be more specific on exactly what spawns are happening where. So we're in the middle of that work as well. And it's a fairly significant undertaking. The good news there is that's mostly tweaking knobs on the procedural world generator. So we can make big changes pretty quickly because we're prepared for that.
Yeah, and another thing is, I just saw some quick questions. No, you don't get more talent points after 30. You don't get more additional spendable attribute points. The benefits are all of those attributes you see in the crafting of the vessel, right? If you look at that sum total, it is a considerable amount of attribute points that you are gaining from getting the better vessels.
Okay, so progressing through the vessels will have a bigger impact now.
Okay, next up, we've got other 6-400 stuff to talk about. You want to talk about, let's see, we've got variable group sizes coming in. This is an interesting one.
Yeah, we
variable
do.
Group
we
sizes.
finally got this in. Something that we've wanted for a while is the ability to change up group size, so it's not just always 5. We can now change it on a world by world basis. So we're going to do we're going to try a dregs campaign with 6 and see how that changes the meta. I know that there are a number of people out there who have asked for this for a while, and I think that's going to be pretty cool. I think that it'll be interesting how a relatively small change like that will have massive implications.
Just being able to have a knob is kind of cool. In the past, we just couldn't do it. Now that we have a knob, we can just play with the numbers that we want to and figure out what feels the best.
So questions about the impact that has on powers. So a lot of our powers that were group targeted did have a hard limit baked into them that said they only hit 5, and we've changed that now to be group size. So effectively the grouping size is going to be variable, not just on the UI and in terms of what kind of groups I can make, but also in terms of the effectiveness of power. So it will have a pretty big impact for sure on the meta.
Yes. Okay. And then we've got some mobile banking changes coming in 6-400.
Yep.
Now
changes coming. Okay. Yeah, I get that. Going away.
Yeah, mobile banking was our way to not have all of the roving bands of thugs drive all the harvesters away. So we had to give them a bit of protection. We've got another system coming online that will handle some of that. So you'll be able to shield some of your items from dropping via the disciplines you have equipped. But that will enable us to get rid of this particular protection and shift it to a different way of protecting some of your stuff. So that will enable us to finally get rid of that. Let's see, what else we got in here?
Okay, yeah.
Let's see, we've got, I know the Crowpedia is in process. There is comments on that. I haven't seen it in actual game yet.
I haven't seen it either. So yeah, somebody mentioned that to me. I think it was Gordon actually, and said, no, it's coming. And I was like, oh, good. I haven't seen it, so.
Todd and I are always skeptical until we see it see it actually in game. That's when it becomes more real for us, is when we can actually see it on somebody else's machine or on our machines. And
Respect!
The cool thing that we just
Come
didn't
on.
talk about was the rule system that came online in this milestone. It's kind of technical on the back end, but what it does is it gives us a bunch of knobs that we didn't have control over before to set up different things on various world bands. So, for example, death, the death respawn. It's been a fixed config setting across all campaigns for the entirety of Crowfall. Now we can actually set up a rule where in this world band it's this value, in this world band it's this value. So in the EKs, it doesn't make sense for you to worry about a respawn time because we don't care about zerging in EKs. We just set that value to 0 there and it works. We just didn't have the ability to do that before, and sometimes we just gotta wait for tech to come online. We know a lot of these friction points exist. We just can't solve them all instantly without actually coming up with
EKs only need to become stable, and then we have can have proper training fights in EK.
I think that's the majority of the 6,400 new stuff that's coming online, Todd. So we can kind of shift over into questions from the Partners Forum.
Well, hold on real quick. I've got one other one that we can't talk about yet, but I want to let everybody know that we're looking at, and that is campaign scoring and territory control stuff. There is an initiative going on right now also dealing with that. It's just not quite to the point where we're ready to reveal it, so we will likely talk about it in the next live stream.
So, Blair, can you kind of summarize the 31 through 35 spawns and how that affects things one more time? Because I saw some questions in the chat.
Yeah, we're going to have to add those spawns to the game. That's the short answer, right? Is right now monsters only went to 30 because there was no reason for them to go any higher. So we're going to have to now add to the dregs. But this part of the thing we're doing with the different worlds being specific is now that I know players are going to be in this band and I can accurately predict that, it means that we can get rid of spawners that just don't matter. So if I'm in a world that, that isn't going to have any players less than 16th level, there's no reason to have any spawners of anything less than 16 level. So that will actually give us the ability the room that we need to do that.
Yeah, but I was more speaking directly to the, the change with the new vessel levels and those spawns for those vessel levels. Blair?
Sorry, I was on mute. That just means there will be level 30 plus content in the dregs.
Hey, GoBox, what's up?
There should not be level 31 NPCs.
Anything good out of the Q&A? Yeah, man, it's dope.
Those upper level characters should not be in those worlds.
Vessels will be incremental now. You start on poor, then you go to white, then you go to green, then you go to rare, then you go to epic, and then you go to legendary.
Basically make it more valuable.
It's not going to be a new character. You're going to upgrade your existing character to the next higher vessel tier.
It's trying to get people to be playing in the place where we want them to be playing.
Gotta have to listen.
You can only do that really through rewards and carrots and sticks, basically.
And we're not, when we talk about respec, we're not letting them respec their race class. It's really respec your talents, right?
Yeah, nobody thinks respec is race and class. And in most games, it is always talents and attribute points.
Yeah. And respec, I believe, is also in this version as well. I believe it's coming in 6.400 as well. Yep. I have to go check
sent you a link, GoBox.
I know it was on the
teaches you everything you need to know about vessels and how to make them.
I haven't seen that one yet, so it's always haven't seen it working yet, not quite ready to commit.
Yeah, but it is coming. I know it for sure.
And last but not least, the big question is always about wipe. What's your wipe plan, Blair? Wipe everything? Wipe every other person? I like that.
Wipe.
This one has such a fundamental re-swizzle of the content that we want to see everybody play through it, I think, from the beginning. So it definitely requires that, and the tech changes to the vessels will certainly require vessels to be wiped.
Finally, life is dead again. Life is officially dead until 600 hits.
If there's an opportunity,
damn, that makes me sad.
To save any
that makes me sad.
Then we'll certainly take a look at it. But I think the betting money would be on there's so much that has changed, we may not have a choice.
Okay, we ready for the
items aren't changing that much, are they?
No, the items aren't changing.
No, interestingly enough, so that was one of the things when we talked about the attribute rebalance. We wanted to touch the item tables as little as possible, and I think we've managed to largely do that. We do have some rebalance coming to War Tribe items, but generally speaking, the attribute bonuses, it's not like a complete redo. Like going back and redoing every crafting recipe in the world was not on the table. That said, actually, we didn't talk about that one, Blair, which is crafting interdependencies. We did change
I think we had a wipe with 6200 already.
That had just kind of over the top level of dependency. Are you going to talk about that?
Yeah, you jumped ahead. There's a partner's question for him about it. So I was saving it for that one.
Okay.
So hang on before you jump into that. I mean, the thing about wipes
the only thing you can do now on live is...
We hate doing wipes. We hate them.
Farming.
We have the ability now to do partial wipes of stuff. Like if we break
farming
one
materials
particular thing, we can just wipe
grind
that
disciplines.
Thing. So, our goal is always to wipe as little as possible, but enough to where we actually get a level playing field again to try to make sure that what we're testing is what is real. Because if we leave stuff that's broken and don't wipe everything, sometimes that means that we're going to get invalid testing.
I understand that they wipe. This is from a rational standpoint. It's completely understandable.
To make sure the game's going to run best.
They have to do wipes. In this sense, yeah, I get it.
We always
it's just
want as accurate
for the people who invest the work emotionally.
Cases,
it hurts.
Wouldn't work with the way things have been changed architecturally to make a specific feature work.
So now it's partner time and crafting questions, right?
Yeah, it's partner time.
All right, yeah, sorry, we've kind of gone a little long, so let's try and get some questions answered if we can.
Yeah. I'll try and get the questions as quick as possible. Okay, can someone explain the harvesting stat versus the harvesting damage stat? So this was a question that came about because of the 2 new campaign rewards that increase different stats on the tools. And basically, if you think of our harvesting system like combat, which it is, there are a bunch of stats that you have like crits and crit amount and all those things that are also in harvesting. Well, harvesting nodes, just like another player, have armor. And when you hit a node with a tool, which is actually a weapon, but it has a value that it can reduce that armor, and that it's reducing that armor by your harvesting stat. So if you're hitting a rock, it uses your mining stat and it reduces its armor. The harvesting power does a base amount of damage that's modulated by how much armor mitigated reduces that value on the node. So if your harvesting stat goes up, you're going to do more damage because you're reducing the armor by more. And there is a limit to that you can reduce it. Now, there's another stat that we added, which just increases that base damage, which will also increase your damage, but it does it by a different amount because it's not reducing the armor as much. So we'll let you guys figure out which one you like better, but that's fundamentally how the system works. I don't want to dive in too deep because time. Next question. Is the infected material farming being looked at?
Yes, that's something that's
soon.
Definitely on my list.
When will be the wipe?
So everything with
soon
going back from the dregs to the infected is something that's high on our radar, and a lot of the infected restructuring.
Passive training is already gone.
Deal with that. Same with the vessel transformation.
When you're crafting and harvesting, you drop disciplines now, and the stats have been moved to the disciplines.
Harvesting added to the existing exploration disciplines and/or a new discipline or belt for it? Yes. We need to add some more stats
and the belts, and you upgrade belts with disciplines.
Of exploration disciplines like Foreman, Villain, Connoisseur. This is a prime candidate.
Time and gold
We can
sink.
also look at adding some of this stat to just the straight up mining and coring exploration discipline, but we'll get it back out there. Next question.
True, Makusa.
Can we please get some diversity in the wealth cards?
Now you only want to log in when you play.
Right now they're basically functioning as pig running keep cards, which means most of the guilds can't even participate as they don't own a keep.
So this ties directly into what I said earlier about we need to take a look at campaign scoring and territory control. So yes, we're definitely looking at it is the short answer. Let's save the longer answer for our next Q&A session.
Okay. Next question. Why do books
Crafting
require
over 300
so many
weapons isn't
professions
content to me.
So yes, books.
Yeah, they definitely need to take out the grind. It's too grindy at the moment. It's not
in the crafting system. Upwards of 5 other professions.
Where are we? Asia?
Over the break, I took a whack to a lot of that, and now most of the weapons in game should require a primary profession and one other profession to make. Generally, leatherworking plus woodworking or blacksmithing plus leatherworking, so that you don't need 5 different things, and it's really hard to make a book, for example, which is a class's primary weapon. So just kind of streamline that down into, it still ends up with the same result. It still uses the same amount of subcomponents, but some of those subcomponents moved from blacksmithing to woodworking, or from rune making into woodworking, or just got rid of them completely. And replaced with a plank or a metal bar or whatever. Basically, the goal there was to make it so it wasn't so difficult to make some of these items. So that streamlining happened as part of 6400 as well. Okay, that is the 4 questions from the ACE dev partners. Now we've got questions from forums and chat.
Yes, we do. So from Communist Puppy, can you add vendors with all the discs and miners to God's Reach? The fact that they're not there is confusing and misleading to the new players.
So this was part of the discipline change in 6300, where we got rid of these mega vendors with all of the available disciplines to kind of scope it down to a couple starting ones, and that you would get the other ones in the from the thrall drops. So we are, I think we're always going to have some disciplines that are not available via vendor.
Okay.
Okay. Next one is Omicrobe. Is PvP ever going to be part of the new player experience? Could the infected world become a balanced PvP leveling playground and maybe a boost to even the playing field, and or 30s not allowed?
So yes on both those questions. So yes, I'm trying to rope the PvP in as part of the new player experience, and yes, we're also trying to fix. So God's Reach right now is in kind of a weird state because we did basically the
That's
new
true,
player
Makusa. I mean,
experience
soon
takes
has
you to
a
about 18th level.
quite wide
And then
variety
at that
of
point,
meanings.
The intent was for you to then migrate to Infected. In fact, I think there's even a quest that says, please migrate to Infected. But there's still high-level camps that exist in, or higher level camps that exist in GR. So a lot of players just go to those camps. However, they're not balanced accurately, so a lot of times that just results in people dying over and over and over. So what we want to do really there is migrate you over to the Infected, and then Infected needs to have a series of zones that become increasingly dangerous, and the leveling goes up as you go. So again, this is part of the overall like rebalance that we're doing to the world bands. I think that'll come. That in theory, a chunk of it will come in this version. I don't know if we'll get to all of it before this version comes out. I don't want to hold up this build just to get it all done, but we'll see how much we can do. Like I said, the procedural world algorithm does allow us to do a lot of this with knobs, so we can make a lot more progress than you would usually think on these large scale changes like this. But we'll see.
We have to hold the new players. That's true.
Alrighty, next up is from
or
Tyrannical.
Old ones.
What are the current plans to promote more activity during the day?
Right,
Currently,
Makusa?
the population difference between siege and non-siege hours is massive. What are you working on to fix this?
So we've got a handful of things that we've been working on, in fact, right? Like putting resource spawners on the outpost was a way to try and get out. A big chunk of this is not, hey, go add new systems. It's just the systems that we have for whatever reason are not being utilized, right? So I want to go back and look at all of the different pieces we have, like caravans and harvesting and leveling and all of those pieces, and say, okay, so why is this not serving the purpose that was intended, and try and get those shorn up before we look at adding new things.
From Coolster50 again, are there any plans before launch to make the game less dependent on going back and forth from the lobby?
Well, this is one, right? I mean, the vessel change is pretty significant in that we were forcing you to jump back to God's Reach to re-level up, and then from there to Infected, and you had, for one character, you had to go through that process 5 times. So now you actually, for one character, go through that process 1 time. So I think, yes, it will be. But at the end of the day, I do like the new lobby having the entire universe laid out in front of you and showing you that you can move back and forth between those worlds. I think that's important. I think that should be pretty cool.
New lobby is cool.
This is a long one. This is from Sloppy. Can you change the price of a seed to 1G and the price of deeds and thralls to 1G for a campaign? Can you put the timber, ingots, and boulders in outpost chests, and move the crafted resources that would typically drop off the outposts in a day to forts? This is so every keep will be in play this next campaign and can be built by small guilds.
That's a whole lot of questions. So yes, of course we can balance all those things. Like we can go through and make changes pretty easy. That was a lot of very specific changes requested. So so we put in the cost on the Tree of Life seed to be not super cheap because we wanted to avoid, oh my God, it's just an immediate land rush. One guild runs through and grabs all the keeps, and now they have them. We can certainly take a look at the cost. I think what I've heard general feedback has been that the cost of the seed is high enough that that we aren't seeing that big land rush at the beginning. But if it's too high, then we can certainly take a look at it. The bigger problem I've been told is that there is no cost to initiate a siege on someone who owns a keep, and that leads to, and there's no notification right of whether or not somebody's going to show up, which leads to burnout because people have to show up for sieges and then their dance partner doesn't show up, and so they're left basically just standing there waiting, and that's not fun. So those are the kind of problems I was trying to solve first before we get into the details of exactly how much drops. But we do have to make a pass over the general level of harvesting, motherload harvesting, caravans, forts, gold production, dust. Where is it best to go and find these things? That is part of the overall balance that we have to do on the economy between now and launch.
Okay, this is from Pulse Arena 2v2, 2 verse 2, 3 verse 3, 5 verse 5, or 10v10. And a PvP rank system or leaderboard would be awesome. I'm bringing plenty of old school MMO players from various games, but a lot are worried that there is nothing for PvPing or even wasting time for other stuff since they don't craft or gather. So will there be a reward or rank system that can offer bragging rights or skins of some sort?
Yeah, I'm not ready to talk about it yet, though, so let's hold off on that one until next month as well.
Okay, and last is from Ribbon.
They have planned something, okay.
Gold to not allow seed purchase, imported ingots, boulders, and wood to not work in campaign hippos like you do for sacrifice items. Again, this leads to guilds just importing materials to build keeps instead of running. Blair, stop that. Running pigs and farming war tribes for gold, which is again detrimental to non-siege time player base.
I believe that we do have the imported flag, right? That you can set on a thing that says, hey, this thing has been imported and therefore can't be used for for example, can't be sacrificed for glory cards. I don't know if we have the knob to be able to say, don't let me use this at a vendor or something like that. And I don't know that we have an ability to flag something as don't allow this object to be imported. We do have the rules manager, though, that just came online with a lot more function. We have a lot more control than we did before. So we'll have to go and look at that. It's basically right now we have kind of import campaigns with import tokens and no import campaigns with no import tokens. I don't think we have any granularity in between the two. I'll have to go find out.
We don't have a lot, Todd. I can't say you can't bring gold in, for example. Like I don't have an exclusion list of items.
They're saying in the chat, no imports.
So I did see one question about which is interesting. So this one is from Undead. It's UXA Gaming. So there's one question about, would it be possible to have basically a dregs equivalent of infected, which is a persistent dregs guild versus guild server? And actually the new lobby is set up perfectly for this. So I think we could do it. Is we could actually set up a eternal guild versus guild world in the same way we set up an eternal infected 3-faction world. So we could actually set one up that just doesn't reset. It might have the same Uncle Bob issues, right, that most games have, but it could be that the the constantly starting and ending campaigns could offer you a way to bring new resources into that world to keep it fresh. So it's definitely something I've thought about some. The new lobby is already set up to allow for it. The funny thing is, if you describe it as, hey, it's like Infected, except that it is guild versus guild instead of 3 faction, what you just described is pretty damn close to Shadowbane's rule set, oddly enough. So I think that we could do it. It is something that the new lobby already supports.
Yeah.
So I have it on my list of stuff to have somebody go and test. Just set the knobs. Like, let's set the knobs that we already have for Infected and Dregs, combine the knobs in that configuration, and let's try it and let's see if it works. Because if it did, that would actually be pretty cool. That would be pretty interesting. I do agree with you. That is one downside of having temporary worlds, is it does make the universe feel more temporary by definition. That was one of the reasons that I thought it was important to have God's Reach and Infected, is because those gave a sense of permanence. So having a guild versus guild version of that, I'm happy to explore it. I think I can definitely see a spot for it in the the kind of overall pantheon, I guess, of Crowfall worlds.
So Blair, just a quick clarification
Sure.
on, I've been seeing some questions in here. So on the disciplines, what happens to the disciplines when you upgrade your vessel?
Right now,
I like Wilbinia's answer. How can you prevent massive alliances? Get good.
I haven't played with that much. I did notice the one pops back into my inventory, but that's the purchased one from the talent.
Unity is all about knobs.
That's why I didn't notice anything, because what ends up happening is you've already earned those discipline slots. They unlocked via your 1 to 30 path, so nothing happens to them when you go over 30, except for that one that respends because of the talents reset when you vessel up, when you go to an increased vessel quality.
And respec only affects talents, not stats, or you get to reset stats and talents?
Both. It's attributes and talents.
Yeah, attributes and stats, two different verbiages. Attributes are the primary 5. Stats is everything under it, like crit and attack rating. Those naturally just fill up based on the attributes changing.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Okay. So then
the last big question that everybody had was, when is this damn thing going to get on tests? As soon as it's ready. Thank you.
Yeah.
It'll be a couple of weeks, but it's soon.
Yeah, you generally can tell when things are shifting around based on our activity on test. We bring it down and we have it internal for a period, and then you guys know it's coming. You've seen the pattern before. So let's talk about the Crow rewards. If you become a backer by the 24th of this month, you will receive this month's Crow reward plus any rewards that come out in the future. Looks like this month we got the Regal Wolf Mount.
We'll get a new mount. Check this out.
You can see it there.
It's amazing.
And then there's a bunch of people riding them. Yeah, I like the wolf mounts as well. I agree. Make it red.
They look good.
Huh?
Yeah. And then the verbiage is, heads will turn when the Regal Wolf Mount
Pick your
appears,
good computer.
taking note of how his muscles ripple beneath his fur. The Wolf Mount includes a saddle that has a limited durability as all the other mount rewards, but you retain the skin for your collection. And that's pretty much everything for the January Q&A. We all came back from our break. Hopefully all of the team members are refreshed. Full steam ahead on things. I see everything getting checked in. I'm testing new stuff constantly. And I can't wait to get in front of you on the test server. You got anything else, Todd?
No, I think that's it. We actually covered a lot. So I want to thank everybody for coming out. You guys are awesome, showing up to all of our live streams, and thank you for jumping in the game and testing us and giving your feedback. As always, I'll repeat that we couldn't make this game without you. So thank you very much for your patience and your constant dedication.
I thank you for making this great game.
Oh, sorry.
Awesome.
Nope. I was just saying bye.
Okay. And then we've got, we're going to raid session, and we will see you on test server as well as in the next Q&A.
Cool. All right. Thank you very much. Happy New Year, guys.